Hello.
Hello. The temporary podcast.
We're back. I wanted to say we're live, but we're not because it's recorded, but we're back. Hello.
Yes.
Magnus, what are we going to talk about today?
Intent and trade-offs. And there was a saying.
Yes.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a heavy entrance.
Yeah. But we're probably, this is permeating all of life, but it seems that many workplaces, there are a lot of good intentions that have ill-advised effect or unforeseen effects. So even though an individual person didn't mean for it to have bad effects, we were not mindful of the bigger picture, and so bad things happen over and over. But I just wanted whatever, and then.
Yeah, I think that's a really good. That's excellent context with that saying.
I mean, so if you're listening and in your workplace, you're totally mindful all the time, and all your intents are carefully analyzed, and even though it might go slightly off, you're always evaluating. Then congratulations, you don't need to listen. Instead, you have to teach me. So connect. Otherwise, the rest of humanity, we could stay for a while, I hope.
Yeah, how is it that so many choices are made that turn out badly or make situations worse? And then we even, that's maybe even in a completely other direction, but why do we stick with them then? And that's also what triggered the intent question, right? We do things with an intent to make it better, I hope. I think that there's only an absolute minority in mankind that does things with a negative intent to very consciously hurt people or an organization. And still we end up in situations and stressed out workplaces with burned out people, and people are unhappy in work, or managers change, and every 2 or 3 years because of that, systems and processes and organizations change, and I don't have the feeling it makes a lot of people happy, to be honest. And all these things happen with good intent, but yeah, where does it go wrong? And that's where the trade-off word comes in, right? If we say yes to this, what are we saying no to? Or if we think about this, how are we thinking enough about the XYZ of the system that surrounds it?
Yeah. Oh man, this is a big. Why is it that we end up in bad places? We just want good workplaces, of course we do, and we just want to make decent money, having fun together, growing together, of course we do. And then there are ways to say that we have that, but probably are also noticing that it's not quite there, many workplaces at least. So if you're asking me what might be major forces at play, well, one would have a brain is in stress or in fight-flight. That typically makes us focus on a singular thing. So that's one thing, and then there's a risk we don't see the negative effect because we're focusing on that particular goal, and we don't see the bigger picture because the workplaces we are referring to are really complex and unpredictable and abstract as well. They might not be in mass production; it might be knowledge work. So what is even the game?
Mm-hmm. And would you then say, because the interpretation I make with what you say is that there's also a lot of bias involved. Mm-hmm. It maybe even call it a tunnel vision, because this is what we want. It's the only thing we'll look at right now, and then the rest will come when it comes, and we'll deal with it then. Yeah. Something like that.
Right. Yes. When we prepared, I said it's like we want the reality to be in certain ways. And then we keep complaining when it doesn't follow, sorry, what we want. So, for instance, we like to have 50% margin next quarter. And in a large corporation, it might dancing down, rippling down for a particular department. That might just be total nonsense. There's no, it's a bit like having a football club or whatever in Division 5, and suddenly someone says that you shall play in Premier League. Yeah, okay then. But there's no way you're going to get there without paying the price. Is it? Patiently, persistently. You cannot skip the training. You cannot skip it. It cannot be done. So that is an example I see oftentimes. So we really need to do this and that because we need to be reaching this or that market window, and there's a singular focus. But then when you do a lot of complex system thinking diagrams, but then that will have a negative effect on the quality, and so then we will have more bugs, for instance, or customer complaints. So then we will have to rework a lot of stuff. So then the quality goes down even more, and contradictory to us wanting to make more money, we're losing money. And moreover, people are hurt in the process because we didn't have patience to build a proper game. Wishful thinking, self-inflicted wounds. We didn't accept the trade-off. We were trained to have linear thinking in school, but this is a field of complex game. It's unpredictable. It's stochastic. There are a couple of problems, always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe if we look into how to step away from how to make this a good thing, right? I heard you. I think you said all of them already. What I have on my mind is that think about the people that are involved, what it means for them, because it's in the end it's all about people. There's Astrid Klaassen again. In the end, it's all about people. Take a step back and look at the system, how things are connected, and then because we're in a complex environment and in a complex world, or the VUCA world, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, we can't know everything, so let's accept that. That also means that we can work iteratively and incrementally in small steps, like set a goal, but then take small steps towards that goal. So those are things. I don't know how you see that, Magnus, but those are possible solutions to this. Build that good intent around the people. Take a look at the whole system and accept what you don't know by moving iteratively and incrementally. With that,
this I like. Look at the people first. Yeah. Right. So yes, me personally and my mom has had to deal with a large company that has an exceptionally poor customer service. It's like you have to beg to buy. Like is something really strange going on. Now, you could say that probably there's someone with the economy that said, see, this customer service is costing us a lot. We have to bring the price down. What if we outsource this to a cheaper country? What if we do a lot of digitalization and self-service and automation? And by the way, it has to move really quickly. And so, by the way, these automated services are not really fit for purpose. See, I have this problem, but whatever button I push on my cell phone, it doesn't fit the bill. What the hell? I want to talk with a real person. Impossible. So what's the trade-off? The very customer you wanted to serve is now blocked. So are you really saving any money? The customer is walking away. So I like that. Let's stay with humans first.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's try an example. Big customer, really huge, is putting out, what do you call it, a tender or something?
Tender, yeah.
Bid, maybe several. Oh, right. So now we are in the marketplace and our company wants to be part of that bid process. This is the market window when there's such a huge upturn and blah, blah, blah. Now, what if we're already 100% occupied, maybe even 105%? Never mind management and sales, that this is what they are supposed to do. Go hungry, take the next deal. And so this message is sold in the corporation. We have to do this because, and then everyone says, okay then. And so who is then taking care of, okay, we won, what if? And then maybe that's putting a strain on us, so we are going to hurt some other customer. Right. And that was something no one knew because our game is kind of abstract. It's a VUCA world. It's hard to predict. And so now the promise towards that customer doesn't happen, the new one. And we're reducing quality to an existing customer. Or in other words, I mean, this has happened. And it's not the fault of the salespeople. I'm not saying that. But we don't find time to talk. And it's like, this is the reality. We have to jump the gun. This is a one-time opportunity. If we miss this one, this customer might not come out the market for the next 10 years again. We have to. It's like we're doing a dive. But yeah, but you know what? If we say yes, we are still going to lose. So the reality is not such that we can say yes. And it's hard to accept. Has that happened anytime in your life or similar?
Yeah, but very literally, actually, up to very heated discussions with salespeople.
And this is not to say that salespeople are evil. Not at all.
Oh,
that's missing the point.
No, maybe I want to correct this because I think we are all products of our context.
Wow.
And it was one particular salesperson. I think it's about 4 years ago or something. He was new in the organization. He had a sales wage, but like very often in sales, you have quarterly and yearly bonuses. So when they reach targets, they get this extra bonus, and it's a substantial part of their wage, which is that is the system, right? So that person came in very motivated. Quite a seasoned sales guy, and not at all a bad person. So I'm not blaming the person. I'm not blaming that guy in the sales role. But he went out to sell, and then he came to me, and I was a kind of an operation manager at the time. And the only thing I could tell to him is there's no space for that. One, I cannot give you what you want in 3 months. That's just impossible. Period. In 3 months is not possible. And two, I cannot give it to you without new hirings because we were already at maybe 105% capacity, right? And I think that one of the big things is that we didn't do enough in that organization is to press the pause button, take a step back and take everybody in the chain. And now in lean management, we would call it a value stream. And instead of sub-optimizing that one point, I think we take all the people from the chain, put them together in a room, create a shared understanding about the system and what it means. If we say yes here, what's the trade-off to that yes?
Right.
What do we need to solve to get to a yes? Or what can we not solve now, but what are the consequences of that yes, short-term and possibly long-term? Like you say, losing customers, but even in that organization, losing people, burning people out. All those things are for me are things to think about. So it brings all this what I started my solution idea with and just talked about brings it all together again. I think.
We don't. And so yes, stress and cognitive biases and the scale of the organization. These are also influential when like ill-advised decision or best intent decisions actually have very negative long-term knock-on effects. And so sometimes we even try to have these meetings cross. So there's the product management, there's the sales, there's the management, there's the customer service. It might be the product development. But maybe, since we're 100% occupied, we were already a bit stressed out. And so before we enter the meeting, we come with a bit of, I'm going to get my point across. And so we don't even talk with each other. We don't even listen. We're not at all looking at this scientifically. We're fighting each other emotionally. And so the meeting doesn't work out anyways.
No, absolutely not.
We're yelling at each other, perhaps.
I had a really good talk with a colleague of mine yesterday, where we talked about a process where in the middle of the process there was a sentence or a phrase, if you like, that says clear off agenda. So, and what the context with that is go into a conversation without an agenda. And I think that would help these, like when I heard you say this, that would help these conversations so much. But, and that's the caveat here, is we come in with an agenda because we are in that stress phase and we want to defend our position, our tribe, or whatever. We want to solve our... And that is normal and it's human and that's even neuroscience driven.
Right.
How we come into that, right? And yeah, here's a word again. I think we use it since the very first episode, or maybe I use it a lot, is that consciousness. Hey guys, let's take it, and we come and bring it down to the people part again. Before we step into this meeting, here's a basket. And here's your stress, and I want you to crumble your stress and put it in the basket and take a step back, so we can look at the system together and see how we can help each other in that. Clear of agenda. Look at the situation without an agenda. Maybe that's a nice one as well. Clear of agenda, Magnus. What do you think?
Yes. I mean. And then there's because you know what, how to do these types of conversation in these types of meetings. There's a lot of science on how you might do that. So especially how you might deal with leading the stress or having tools to help people get out of a stressful moment. Maybe they have a back-to-back meeting. Maybe this is a late evening meeting because we are really occupied. So this is 7:00, or maybe it's on the weekend because that was the only time where everyone could meet because everyone has a full schedule. Have I lived it? 100%. What does it do with the brains though? So even when we arrive, we're a bit tired, a bit stressful. I cannot even. So what was this deal about again? I cannot even wrap my mind on how are we going to squeeze that in. My brain is already full with, maybe I'm head of product development and there are so many issues and problems. Oh my God, and you don't even know. And I don't even have time to explain to you how many problems we have that is not our fault necessarily. So we never get a great conversation. What is the thing that helps? Well, of course, getting rid of stress. Even small things, how we sit at the table, if we sit across each other, or if we sit in an open circle and do it towards a whiteboard, maybe with a content-neutral facilitator. Mm-hmm. Science shows that there's a difference. We tend to be less stressed. We tend to be able to hear what other people say if we sit in an open circle. There's no like random accident that practice has emerged. And yet we might be so important, so we sit across a conference table, maybe even with a laptop between each other. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't remember what you're saying because the only thing I'm doing, I'm thinking on how I'm going to say my thing because I totally want to sell my view. So yeah, she's talking. I don't care. I'm going to prepare my talk. Boom, like that. How is that going to help your organization? It's just not. But it's good intent in every individual there. But we don't have the skillful conditions. We don't have the skillful supporting container, do we?
Yeah. I love where this is going because a part of this is absolutely facilitation.
Yes. But might we even say that actually, since we are grown-ups, we should expect of ourselves to do better than not to be able to listen on my fellow colleague, even if that person is saying something that is really challenging me.
Yeah.
Might it be on my responsibility to learn? See, I find myself really upset because you're saying things that seems widely out of possibility. But before we go there, let me hear you out. Did I understand you correctly? What is it that you are seeing? Why is it that you're so passionate that we have to take the deal in the prior example? Mm-hmm. What if we have that language? Right. So there we go. Sorry, you said facilitation, for instance, like one of the tools.
Yeah, no, there was so much passion that erupted from you when you gave it back, and I agree with you, but I don't. Yes, I agree with you entirely. It's about behaving like adults. Sometimes I want to shout at people and ask them, "How old are you? 11?" But that would not be very respectful, right? But you're absolutely right. Now the thing is that a lot of us, we call it a stress situation, a fight, flight, freeze mode. But we are very often triggered by our hurt inner child, right? And that's very but that's super unconscious, eh? That's
it is.
Our train is brain like that because somewhere. So yeah, can we not react in a more mature, grown-up way? Yes, mostly, I think. And then again, I think we're also in there. We are products of our context. I think it's often. I'm trying to defend it a little bit, Magnus. It's also a bit doggy dog. Eh? I have to interrupt, or I will not be heard, and that goes. I think creating and now bringing it back to facilitation. I think creating that platform of grown-ups talking to each other requires facilitation. And I think there's part of leadership facilitation to create that space where we have these written or unwritten rules, how we interact. And there's the facilitation of the conversation to bring out the results that we want to get from it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I see it. Make sense? Or
totally.
I have the feeling I babbled a bit, but it fell down together in clarity for me, but
so let's do a meta observation, because to me you didn't at all babble. It was possibly passionate and based on experience, by the way. So it wasn't a passion without profession. It was a well-founded pointing out. But I did the same just before. Okay, so if observing that, if you view us, what is that though? It might be because Serge and Magnus, this is 100% talking volume. What is the optimal distribution and pacing? So it's my responsibility to start noticing. Now I've spoken for a long time. Am I stopping something else to happen? Or now I have an urge to chip in, and I'm chipping in a word or interrupting. What is that? Is it helpful? There's no right and wrong, but it is a dance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that consciousness, that self-reflection, that asks a lot of us. It takes a lot of us. It takes a lot of energy that we need that reflection space for ourselves, I think.
But now I'm thinking about, because you're well educated and experienced in continuous improvement or continual improvement. I'm not clear. Isn't that structure promoting the habit of becoming better and better of this type of conversation? Deep listening? Okay. In what ways?
Yes. Yeah, well, but now, you touched my pet peeve, continual improvement. How do you create? Because one of the things I'm talking about as much as I can is how to make continual improvement or continuous learning a habit in an organization. And the biggest solution, the biggest thing to solve is create time for it. Deliberately create time for it. Create a space to reflect, adjust, see what happens, reflect, adjust, see what happens. It's a bit like the heart of Agile we talked about last time. It's a bit of the same thing, but then, and you can do that on a local level and on a bigger level. So if we want to make these conversations better, Magnus, how do we have these, this is a conversation, this is the purpose of that conversation, where are we now, where do we want to be, and what's the next step in that direction? And then we're doing continuous improvement. You do that, you create a habit. In martial arts, we call it a kata. If you do a movement 10,000 times, it becomes part of your brain, becomes muscle memory. So improvement katas, which links back to Toyota. What if in every meeting, what if before we do these meetings, we kind of make certain rules of engagement or whatever you want to call them, like the basic principles of this meeting, how we run them, what do we want to achieve, blah, blah, blah. And what if every meeting or on a regular basis, we pause and we reflect on how it is going, where we want to be, and what the next step is in that direction. And then we make continual improvement a habit within that context. That's how I basically see it.
Yeah, you see now, to me, now we're getting somewhere. Because now we're saying that there actually is a habit. That habit also has to do with how you do conversation. What if that habit might be something that you would like to investigate, because certain types of conversations leads to better results than others? Okay. And what if that habit is because we're so emotional, we might not even notice what we're doing. But what if there's a way to practice that, to become ever more skillful to listen, or maybe even more skillful to recognize my other person, maybe even more skillful to say that, hey, you know what? I noticed that he or him, what I'm saying, that person that has not spoken for a long time. How do you see all this? Or maybe skillful moves and how we offer a meta observation. It seems like we're having several parallel conversations right now. It seems like we're not landing on the previous one before we ship in the other. What do you all make of that? Mm-hmm. Well, it's a gazillions of certain type of things you can do in terms of language and listening and pausing, slowing down, allowing a bit of thinking sometimes. And do like I do now, I slow down my voice. What does it mean? It seems to me, Serge, you're a bit thoughtful. Seems like also to be in a good place I make up.
Yeah, because you are very aware of what's happening in front of you, what you're seeing and hearing, more even seeing, and it's the other way around. And that's observation. And yeah, you just said listening, so there's a practice called deep listening, which are things you can practice. Mm-hmm. And then we're there again, the intent of deliberate practice. And deliberate practice creates a habit, which makes us better and creates that environment again. And I want to bring this back to facilitation as well, Magnus, because I believe that a good facilitator can trigger this. And you don't have to have a designated facilitator. I think it definitely helps, but someone like what you just did in the conversation, somebody who does that in a professional conversation meeting setting and says, oh, pause button, what's happening? I see two people are talking like this there, not even to each other, and two are doing the same there. And we haven't heard Irene for the last hour. What's going on? I think that's wonderful. And that is also facilitation, right?
Yeah. My friend Doreen is with me. So maybe do not only try to work the problem, be with the human, the whole human being. Because since if that's what we're doing, we just become aware of much more information. We're seeing not only what a person is saying, we take notice of how that is said. what is the body language. And so we can actually be much more present and get more clues on what is a skillful move here. Which, if you think about it, that's how humans interact if we're calm and relaxed. We kind of know how to do it. It's just that oftentimes we forget. And we might not do it scientifically, by the way, but especially under pressure in a corporate setting, it seems like we're moving away from intelligence that we actually have, but we're not using it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's intents and there's trade-offs. The more we are poor in listening and understanding what people really mean and listening to each other, the less it will become clear as a group. The collective wisdom will never be present, and we will never know if we have a knowledge threshold. And so we make an unskillful decision. We're not even aware of the trade-off. And so we move towards hell with a good intent. What if it's possible to do different? I believe it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how would we wrap this train of thoughts today, Magnus?
That in my heart of my hearts, I know we're onto something here that has a huge impact and consequence. And I suggest that this actually might be where you want to investigate a bit. There is not a problem with the role descriptions. There is not a problem with the processes. There's not a problem with whatever structure you have. The problem is within the heart of human collaboration. It's not working well. What might you do?
So, friends who are still with us now, I love the open question ending with this. So, what might you do? Let us know. Give us a shout, react, send us a message. We'd be very happy to hear from you. So, thanks for being here again. Thanks a lot, Magnus. I liked our talk, as always. And see you next time.
See you next time. It was fun.